spring and damper mechanism. Okay, the speciality of this type of suspension system is that the kingpin is attached directly to the cross member or chassis, we call it as. So this is the cross member or chassis. The kingpin is directly attached to the kingpin itself. Okay, the suspension as well as the spring as well as the damper both will be attached here. So one end of the suspension system is directly attached to the chassis, whereas the second end you can see over here, okay, it is attached to a upper spacing rod. Okay, it's just a metal rod with bolts clamped so that these suspension systems will be kept together in proper way. Okay, so when the wheel here moves up and down, okay, so that this suspension system also acts, the entire load will be taken by the cross member, and the spacing rod whichever is there, that helps in maintaining the distance between the two types of suspension system. Okay. So this is regarding vertical guide suspension system. It's a simple mechanism. I think you have taken out the step already. Yeah. So we will move to the next, that is trailing link suspension. Trailing link suspension. So in this type of suspension system, a coil spring is attached to the trailing link. Okay, here you can see this is the trailing link. Okay, along with the wheel, this trailing link, whatever is there, so this can also move up and down. Okay, so one end, instead of fitting it to the chassis, the coil spring is directly attached to the trailing link. Okay, so when the wheel moves up and down, this trailing link also moves up and down along with the spring and damper system. Right, so this does not this system does maintain the camber and the wheel track as constant. Okay, there are different ideas or concepts, okay, which are universally accepted, but all of them does the same task, right? Okay, this animation, 1 second. Okay, so this animation, anyway, I'll send it to you. There is some issue, it's not getting open. Trailing link suspension. So anyway, I'll post it to you in the Teams. You can just go through. Yeah, it's working now. You can see. So this is the trailing. Can you see? Can you see the video? I mean animation.
No, sir.
It's getting played in my system. 1 second. One second, please. It is getting played in my system. Can you see now? Yes, Sagar, Gagan, Ashok.
No, sir.
Okay. Anyway, I'll share it in Teams, so you can go through. I think there is some technical issue. That animation is getting played in my system, but I think you are not able to see it, right? So next is the swinging half angle suspension. Just take down a rough sketch. Swinging half axle suspension. swinging half axle suspension. I think I have downloaded animation for this also. Don't know whether it will work or not. Okay, is it done?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in this type of suspension system, yeah, wheels are mounted rigidly on the half axles. So the axle used is of two part. So earlier sketches you could just notice. Okay, the axle was which was used was a single type, right? But here it is split into two parts. Just you can go through this earlier. So the axle, whatever is there, it was a single membrane. You can see clearly, correct? So, but here, whatever in this mechanism it is used, okay, it is a two halves. Okay, it is split into two halves. You can see it is split into two halves, right? So in this, wheels are mounted rigidly on the half axles. On the half axle, one half of the axle carries one individual wheel. You can see in this sketch clearly, right? So which are pivoted and their ends to the chassis. Okay, up and down movement of wheel. So when the wheel moves up and down directly to this chassis or half axle, as the name itself suggests, half axle, the spring as well as the damper mechanism is connected, so that when the wheel moves up and down, so this also moves up and down, right? So this mechanism, just I'll try to demonstrate with the help of a video. Let us see whether I'm able to play it or not. Are you able to see it? Yes, is the video visible?
No, sir.
1 second, please. I'll just reload my PPT. Please hold on for a second. Now is it? Is it working now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. You can see in this video. So two half of the axles are used, and in center differential. So differential will split the power to both the wheels equally. So shock absorber mechanism, which consists of spring and damper. Suppose if this wheel goes through a bump, only this part of the mechanism will work. The second half will not work. Say only one wheel, say you can clearly see over here. If it is going through a bump or a pothole, only that particular suspension will work, the other will be stagnant. Yeah. So this is the working of independent half axle suspension. Okay. So similarly, rear wheel independent suspension system can also be used. Whatever mechanism we saw in the earlier slide, that was for the front wheel. For the rear wheel also you can see. So two half axles are used and a differential mechanism is there here. Okay. So to the chassis itself, it is mounted. So if this wheel is operating, only this suspension will work, and if this wheel is operating, this suspension will be working. So this is called as the rear wheel independent suspension system. Please note down the sketch. Okay, is it done? Is it done? Okay. So coming to the last topic, air suspension systems. Let's take down the sketch. We will discuss air suspension system. Okay. So in air system, suspension system, there will be no question of any springs here. Okay, air springs will be used. Okay, they are bellow-like structures. Okay, they will be like air bags. Okay, a bag-like structure where if air is filled, they will be expanding and giving the required suspension. Where if air is not filled, they will compress. So such air springs will be used for all the four wheels. Okay, so you can see in the air suspension system, four air bags. They are in turn called as the air bags. Okay, they will be usually of bellow type. Okay, they will be used instead of coil springs. Okay, so the atmospheric air pressure through a filter and compressor. Okay, so through a filter, there will be a air filter. Through the air filter, compressor will suck the air. It will compress it, and through a relief valve, it will give to the lift control valve. So this lift control valve will equally divide the air to the required suspension system based on the need. Okay. So this relief valve helps in overcoming the any excess buildup of pressure. Okay. So the lift control valve is operated usually manually based on the bump or potholes, whatever is there. So respective lift control valve will be operated, and that wheel will get the required suspension system. Okay, it's a simple mechanism. So in this video, you can see wherein a air suspension system is used, right? 1 second. You can see how the car moves down. Okay. And also you can lift it up to any height. If you are traveling in any of the terrain areas wherein ground clearance required is more. Okay. So this can be lifted up to any height. If you are driving in a flat highway where stability matters in certain curves, you can keep the whatever gap as minimum as possible. You can see it moves up now. So the pressurized air will be blown so that what happens, the airbags expand and it will give a better clearance. So depending on the driving conditions, you can alter the height of the vehicle here. Are you able to see the video?
Sir, it's just a picture ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
ನೀವು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರು ಯಾವಾಗ ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ನೋಡಿ. ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ.
ಹಾ ಸರ್, ಎಸ್ ಸರ್, ಎಸ್ ಸರ್.
ಅದು ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಪ್ಲೇ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. Can you notice now?
Yes sir, it is seen sir.
This is just an example. It is Audi A4. So just I downloaded it from net and just to demonstrate you how the air suspension works. See how the height of the vehicle can be varied. See, this is the minimum possible and this is the maximum possible. Even in Volvo buses, you can notice that if some aged people are getting down, only that particular bellow will be released from here so that the bus will totally lean towards one end. I think you might have noticed it in the modern Scania buses. This facility is there. In Volvo also it is there. Okay, only that particular left side air will be released so that the bus will completely lean. Directly you can step in easily. Once the passenger gets in, again that bellow will be blowed with air so that there will be a stable height. Okay. So this is an example of air suspension. What are the advantages of air suspension? A variable space for wheel deflection is put. Okay. So using automatic control devices, you can vary the height or deflection of the vehicle. Okay. You can maintain a constant height or altitude of the vehicle so that headlamp alignment will be easier. Okay. It reduces the dynamic loading on the vehicle. So vibrations during irregular roads all will be automatically taken care. So riding comfort will be always better compared to spring suspensions. As we discussed earlier, almost any spring suspension, the elasticity of the spring is the most biggest problem. So it will not come to rest after any pothole or bump. Okay. So spring becomes stiffer when compressed, providing comfortable ride under all conditions. So under any type of driving conditions, it gives a maximum comfort. These are some of the advantages of air suspension system. So with this, the suspension system we have completed. So the last topic of this module is the ignition system. Okay, ignition or starting. So as we discussed earlier in the syllabus, there are three parts in this chapter. First one was the steering system. second is the suspension system, and third is the ignition system. So the first, before starting this part of the module, what are the requirements of an ignition system? Why it is required? Okay, and what should be the main function? Okay, so ignition system is a source of electric energy with help of which you can ignite and start the vehicle. The spark plug must produce spark regularly in a petrol engine. I have taken here as example. So this spark must be synchronously timed with respect to cylinder piston position. Okay, the timing of this spark should be exact, irrespective of the load and speed. The timing should be maintained constant. Okay, so there should be a mechanism to boost the low voltage to very high voltage. Just imagine very small 12-volt battery we will be using. With that, can you get a huge voltage to ignite the fuel? Okay, it is not possible. There should be some mechanism which will boost the low voltage to very high voltages. Okay, or else you cannot carry any transformer mechanism there wherein huge current can be passed and a spark can give. That is not possible. Only a 12-volt battery will be usually a small battery will be used. So whatever low voltage is there, that should be boosted to a very high voltage so that ignition can take place. Okay, so and the main requirement is it should be compact. You cannot use, that is what I told you, you cannot put a very huge battery or a battery and a transformer mechanism wherein boosting of voltage take place. So that cannot be done in a small place. Only a battery and dynamo will be there, so that the entire mechanism should occupy only small place. Okay, so if you want to make it an actual mechanism like a big battery and a transformer to step up the voltage, what happens? The entire engine space, whatever is there, that will be taken up by the ignition system only. How do you design the vehicle? It will not be possible. Correct. So it should be as compact as possible. So these are the requirements of ignition system. Sometimes they'll ask you to brief what are the requirements of ignition and suspension system, like that. Okay. So please make a note. So there are three types of ignition system we have to study. So with that, this module will be over. Today I'll try to cover one, and other two types we can discuss tomorrow. Please make a note of it. Okay. First type of ignition system will start. That is battery ignition system. Take down the sketch. Please make it fast. Is it done? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The important components are, first is the battery. Okay. Then there will be a coil mechanism. So this is called as the primary coil, and this is the secondary coil. As I told you, whatever small voltage will be there, that voltage will be boosted here to very high voltage. Okay. Then there will be a contact breaker and a operating cam mechanism. This is the third most important. This helps in building up the voltage. Okay. Next, there will be a distributor and a set of spark plugs for each cylinder. Okay, one spark plug will be there. Okay, so these are the important components of a battery ignition system. Now we will see how the battery ignition system works. So I have downloaded this sketch so that it will be easy for you to understand. Once again, I'll repeat, important components are battery, number one, okay, and an ignition mechanism. Okay, that is key will be there. If you just switch on, this battery will be connected to the primary coil. That is what happens in an automobile. Okay, you can see there will be a magnetic central rod, and there are two coils. The first larger one is the primary, and the smaller one is the secondary coil. When you switch on the key, battery will be connected to the larger coil, that is the primary coil, so that there will be a capacitor arrangement. Okay, so it helps in boosting the voltage many times. So this will be directly connected to a contact breaker, and this is the distributor, which in turn will be connected to a spark plug. So these are the important components, right? So how this mechanism works? Okay, the battery supplies electrical current to the primary coil. Okay, when you switch on the key to the primary coil, the battery will supply the electric current. Okay, so you can see this is the primary coil. The battery will supply the electric current to the primary coil, the larger coil, whatever you can see, to the primary coil it supplies. Okay, so the voltage whatever supplied, it will be a low voltage, like 12 volt or so. It will be a low voltage. Okay, so it should be converted to very high voltage in order to produce a spark in the spark plug. Okay, so the battery, primary coil of the ignition, condenser and contact breaker, whatever is there. So this is the contact breaker, condenser. This entire is called as the primary circuit. Okay, so this circuit is helpful in producing the electric current low voltage, that is from the battery, and making it to a high voltage, boosting up into the high voltage. The distributor and the spark plug, whatever you see here, so this is called as the secondary arrangement, right? Is it clear? Next, the contact breaker set consists of contact points, a cam mounted on a camshaft. Right? Okay, so whatever contact breaker you can see here. Okay, so this will alternately make and break the circuit. In basic electrical engineering, you might have studied this. So it is a cam operated. So this cam will be keep on rotating, so that the circuit, this and this will join and move back. So these 2 points, whenever cam in a particular, they join, so that a high voltage will be supplied. When it is break, the voltage will be there, so that the voltage will be going up and down, right? So here there is a distributor. You can see as the distributor, this will be constantly rotating. Okay, when it comes in contact with point 1, the electricity will pass to the spark plug number 1, so that here a spark will be produced. How the spark will be produced? Here there are 2 electrodes. One electrode is connected to the distributor, the other electrode is directly connected to the ground. It will be earth, to the neutral voltage. So when there is a huge potential difference, there will be a spark produced. So after 1, it will move to the 3rd. Okay, next it will move to the 4th, next it will move to the 2nd. So this will be constantly rotating. Whenever it comes in contact with these leads, okay, automatically spark will be coming out. So this is the mechanism. So boosting of high to low voltage takes place because of making and breaking of circuit by the contact breaker. So this is how the entire mechanism works. It is a very